Welcome to the City of Caldwell podcast. We have two great guests with us here today. I actually have the privilege to knowing them personally, but I'm going to go ahead and let them just introduce themselves. So, who are you? And yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Julissa Hernandez Alejandra, but I go by Julie, and I was a senior at Caldwell High School, but I graduated this year. Yeah.
Okay. And
I'm Nick Mendez. Gonna be a junior at Caldwell High School.
cool. And well, thanks for hanging out with us today, letting us get to know you guys a little bit better, and I'm excited for the community to get to know a little bit about your story. So Nick, why don't you go first? Why don't you tell us? Start with some people already know, but start with what people might know about you as far as like what's going on recently. But tell us also like the beginning also. So tell us why people might know you like right now.
Okay. I think a lot of people might know me because of my recent acceptance into my NASA internship. So that'll be taking place later in July. I'll be going down to Austin, Texas to conduct NASA research and also participate in different projects and specifically looking at studying aerospace engineering while during my time there, but then also connecting with different people there. So I get to meet with a bunch of different people from across the nation, and we all get to work together on these projects and have those experiences. Um, you want to know a bit more about my beginning?
Yeah, tell us how you grew up, family life. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I was born in Colorado. I lived there for 11 years, and so my parents, they both immigrated from Mexico over to Colorado, and they lived there for a while. So they had my sister, and then they had me. So I have one older sister, and we just spent most of our time there in Denver. That was the area we stayed at, and I think connecting that to like what I might be doing now. During my time there, I always enjoyed looking up at the sky, and like especially during the night, we sometimes like go on drives, and I always like enjoy looking at the moon and looking at the stars. And both of my parents, my mom was able to graduate high school, but she never went on to college, and my dad wasn't able to finish high school, so he just went to America and he just started work. But they always pushed me, not just them, but then also like just my entire family. They're like, go out, get an education. It's really gonna let you live comfortably, and it's only gonna let you serve others. So I've always worked hard, especially in elementary school, just getting started. I enjoyed learning. I always liked reading and doing math, and eventually, that's when I started connecting my love for learning, but then also like my love for science and especially like looking up in the stars. Because I remember one day we took like a trip to like one of our like family friends' farms, so we just stayed there, and over there the stars were perfectly clear, like you could see everything. And my aunt, she had an app on her phone where she was able to just go up and look at the stars, and I thought that was so cool being able to like figure out where the planets were, what different constellations were. So that really stuck with me. And eventually we moved up to Caldwell. And I was very fortunate to have a science teacher that really pushed me to like go out and learn. So Dr. Farrow from Springer Middle School, she had this one incentive in the morning where people could go in, and it was around the time Katherine Johnson got a Medal of Honor from like the President of the United States. I think it was like the year anniversary of that, or I think it was like during that time. But either way, she showed us the movie Hidden Figures, and in that movie, it's about three NASA scientists, but they were black women, and they were treated very unfairly in the workplace. And we were able to see that movie, and that really inspired me, especially because me being like a first generation Hispanic student, a lot of those opportunities are open to me, or like they weren't open to me, and sometimes it felt like I was unfit for those. Like that was just something I couldn't do, like because of like what barriers were like shown to me. But then through that movie, I was able to see how they overcame that and how they didn't let what other people said or different beliefs or standards over there stop them. So that really inspired me. and showed me what I might want to do in the future. So I really wanted to, like, I want to be like one of them. Like, I want to go and like study and do all the math on the chalkboard. And that really left a mark in me. And then from that moment on, I'd say like that was like when I was like, yeah, like I want to do this. I know I could do this. Like those barriers there, they're able to be hurdled over. So after that, I started taking up on like any opportunity I could. So I know like the middle school had like a science bowl team. So I was like, oh, I want to do that. Because I like either way, all this stuff wasn't just because I saw like my goal and I saw like what I had to do to get there, but I also learned very quickly like I have to love what I'm doing. So I made sure like in every step of the way that I did things that like I wanted to do and that I loved and I was passionate about. So that continued on even through like the rest of middle school, and then going into high school I knew like to achieve like my goals I'd really have to like go in. So I was like looking up things I could do, stuff that like I'd really be passionate about, and I was able to find Caldwell Student Council. So I thought that would have been a great place for me to learn leadership skills and communicate and get like a lot more closer to the school. And through that, there has been so many other connections. I also decided to join the robotics team at Caldwell High School. That was something I knew I really, really wanted to do, especially just because it was robotics. I liked all I had to do. I liked the math, I liked the coding, and like the mechanics of it all. And I'd say from those two, a lot of other stuff started to branch out. So I know MIAC was another one that I kind of researched, and I was like, I think that'd be really cool to get involved at the city level. And then through student council and robotics, I was able to kind of like finalize my decision to join Tree Upward Bound. So Tree Upward Bound is like the one that really I'd say like skyrocketed me, because they're the ones that gave me like a place to be, and they gave me a community. So Josh and all that he does and all the other people in Tree Upward Bound, they're always there to support me, and they gave me people to support. It's just a really big support system, and they also opened up a lot of opportunities for me. So this internship program that I'm going to be doing, Josh was the one that was like, hey, like this sounds like exactly like what you want to do, and he was like, I think you should apply. So I gave it a try, and I got accepted in, so I'll be able to do that because of all that.
Cool. And you said MIAC really quickly, and I think a lot of people don't know what MIAC is. So what is that really quickly?
Yeah, so MIAC stands for the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. So it's kind of like, it's an advisory council that's sponsored by the city. So the mayor and different city workers go in and they advise that club. So what it is, it's students from all different schools in the valley. So Caldwell, Valley View, Ridgeview, the charter schools. And they're all invited to go to these meetings, and like they're twice a month, first and third Wednesday of every month. And through there, you're able to connect with all these people and all that they do, and you're also able to learn a lot of like great leadership skills. And there's so many opportunities that get opened up from there. I remember my sophomore year, I was able to take a trip up to Washington D.C. because of that, and that also like opened up a whole nother world to me, because it's all like a bunch of leadership in our history. So I thought that was really cool. And there's also a lot of like team bonding, so you know a lot about connecting with others, and just being able to grow close with the city, because there's also a lot of service projects that are done. I know they let us know about Thanksgiving boxes, so like we were able to go in and assemble Thanksgiving boxes for people in the community. So through MIAC, you're able to not just learn a lot about the city and yourself, but you're also able to give back to your community, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, cool. And speaking of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, you just got a brand new position there. So what position did you get elected to?
Yeah, so at the end of the year, we held our elections for the next year's executive council, and I ran and got elected as the chair for the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. So I'll be able to go over there and really expand my leadership skills. So being able to like oversee like all of MIAC and try to like help the decision process and just overall leading MIAC, I think that'll be really a special opportunity, and I'm excited to do it because I feel like I'm ready for it. I think like the past 2 years, I've been really able to like grow my leadership skills to a point where I can handle the position and do well in it. but I know that there's still so much more for me to learn and so much for me to do. So I'm really excited to see what the future will hold, being able to be in that position. So I hope I'll be able to not just grow like myself and my own leadership skills, but I'm also able to like rise up others.
Yeah. Cool. We'll probably come back to Trio and to Mayak here in a moment, but Julie, would you like to tell us a little bit about your story?
Yes. So I grew up here in Caldwell at Farmway Village, which is kind of like on the outskirts of Caldwell. When I grew up there, it used to be like a majority fieldworking community. It was pretty small, surrounded by fields. There's a highway that connects the city and Farmway, and so that's basically where I grew up. That's where I spent my summers. My family had ended up there because my mom, she's from Michoacan, Mexico, and so she migrated when she was like 17, which is really crazy, like really young. And she wasn't able to finish her high school career, so she did field work. So she kind of went from like California to Oregon, and then ended up in Idaho, and so that's just where my family was always. Growing up, I'd wait a lot for her, like, to come back from work, because she was there, like, all day, every day, and we did struggle, like, financially, because it was just my mom and, like, 6 kids, which is really hard. So I think for me, that's where a lot of my motivation came from, because she'd get home and she'd be like, you have to go study or you go work the fields. Like, it's one or the other. And so for me, I was like, I really want to make her proud, and she didn't have a lot of the opportunities that I had that she gave me. So I think my mindset, like, really young was like, I'm gonna make the most out of those opportunities because I have them and they're a privilege to have. Yeah, so I think one of the really first things that kind of opened the door to, like, me being involved in stuff is Leadership 4-H. It's the only club out in Farmway, and it's still there, so if you're at Farmway, you should join. But the lady who used to run it at the time was Ileana Vega, and she was huge, like, really huge in my journey because she was Latina, she was first gen, she had her college degree, she was a professional, and for me that wasn't something I saw. That wasn't something that was in my family or at Farmway, and so that was the first time I saw, like, representation that I needed. And really early on she'd tell me, like, like, your education is your power, you can go to college, you can do this and that. She really motivated me, and even though she left when I was in 6th grade, I think, like, her motivation really continued to push me, and it still does, like, even till now, just because, like, she was such a big impact on me. So yeah, I think ever since then I kind of really tried really hard in school, always being, like, a really good student, trying to make my mom really proud. So middle school was actually pretty easy, like, academically I did really good. And then high school, like, freshman year, oh my goodness, freshman year was so, like, hard, because I went to Heritage Charter School, and it's like there's a good Hispanic population there, so I was really used to that. And then we had a lot of Spanish speaking teachers, so I was really used to having people around me who looked like me. And then my freshman year I went to a charter school, really, really small charter school, and it was, like, majority white people, and I wasn't used to that. Like, I remember looking around and I was, like, one of 2 Latinas in the classroom, and I was like, whoa, like, this is a really big change. So that transition for me was really hard. There were times where I felt, like, really, really intimidated, especially because a lot of the kids there did come from, like, higher income class families, and so a lot of the things that they would have or say, like, I couldn't really relate to. So I think, like, kind of like Nick was talking about, like, feeling like you couldn't do something, I think I kind of felt like that a lot my freshman year. I remember pushing myself really, really hard academically, because I did feel like there was pressure to kind of, like, show up, I feel like, I don't know, I just felt like there's expectations lowered for me, and, like, I needed to prove them wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I did really, like, it was really hard, but I left, like, with the 4.0 at that school, so I did pretty good. And then I ended up transitioning because I just didn't feel that I had, like, the resources I needed. So that's when I went to Caldwell, and then it was during COVID, so it was kind of hard. And then my second quarter, my sophomore year, I joined True Upward Bound, like Nick. And so for those who don't know, True Upward Bound is a federally funded program for first generation low income students. So what first generation means, for True Upward Bound for us, it's basically that neither of your parent got their 4-year degree, or finished college. So when we mean first gen, that's what we talk about. Yeah, so basically, if that's kind of like your background, True Upward Bound helps you. They give you the resources to figure out what college you want to go to figure out, like, your story and how to say it, and to help you with the college process. So a really big shout out to Josh Engler. He's our trio teacher, and he really did a lot. He did so much to help us out, and he helped so many students out. And I think it's just a really great program. There's also Trio Talent Search at Caldwell High School, which is, I think they have a bigger range of students than Trio Upward Bound does. And they also have that program at Jefferson, Syringa, Valley View, and
I think Ridgeview also
I
has
think
it.
Ridgeview, yeah. I'm not too sure about Elevate.
Yeah, I'm not for sure
But
about
anyways, at whatever school you're at, I would really recommend you look into True Upper Bound, and even if that's not an option, really look into the different programs at your school. Because I think for me, something that was really key was just leaning on the different clubs I'm in, the different programs that are there. If I had even just one teacher who believed in me, I would kind of lean on them, for support. And I think that was really huge. I think my community had a really big impact in where I am today. Yeah, because for those who don't know, I went to Princeton University for 5 weeks last summer. It was a really selective program, and they only accepted 100 students nationally. And so Josh Engler, he's the one who told me about it, and he helped me with my application. And I even had 2 trio students who they drove me to my interview because it was really early and I can't drive. And the other one watched my sisters while I was at my interview, so that was really nice. Shout out to Joanna and Cassandra. And then I also got into Columbia University in New York City. So that's where I'll be going in 3 months. Really crazy. But I also think Trio, Josh, my community helped me out a lot with that. I think something that did come with both of those, though, was really big, imposter syndrome, which imposter syndrome is, when you feel like you don't deserve it or you don't belong. And I think that's just normal to feel that, especially as, a first-generation student. And I think kind of to combat that, I think the support of my community really did help me out. When I went to Princeton, I remember Josh posted it, and, it blew up on Facebook. And I remember feeling I'm doing right by being here, this is something important for my community. And so I think me deciding to commit to Columbia was really scary because I'm it's New York City, it's across the country, and I'm by myself. So that's really scary. But I kind of had to think back, this isn't only going to affect me, but my family and my community, I'm going to be able to help Nick, in a few years with his college applications. And I'm going to be able to help other students, know that if you're from Caldwell, you can go that far.
I think one thing that you did not mention is you mentioned that you're going to Columbia, but you left out a portion of how you're going to Columbia. So I think people are thinking, wow, that sounds really expensive. Mm-hmm. So how are you going to Columbia?
So I actually got a full ride scholarship from Columbia. Really nice. I don't have to pay anything. Mom doesn't have to pay anything. Just super nice. I think a really big something that people think is that you have to pay to apply to a lot of these colleges, but a lot of them give out fee waivers, so I actually did not have to pay anything I applied to 11, I didn't have to pay anything for the applications. So I'd say don't let money stop you, or at least ask questions before just giving up on something. But yeah, full ride.
So apply the right way then.
Yeah.
So why pay the $50 or whatever per application when you can if you time it right, then you can not have to pay.
Yeah. Because I think that's something that stops a lot of low-income students is, we're always thinking, about the financial barrier, and I think oftentimes that's not there, even though we don't know that.
So why don't you give us the game plan or the blueprint? So somebody might say, well, okay, great, that's good for you that you're going to Columbia, but my situation, is different, and I don't know if I could ever do that. Mm-hmm. So what would you say to somebody who's so how does somebody from ground zero, mm-hmm. if I'm an 8th grader going into high school, or maybe I'm in middle school, I'm not really thinking about college yet, but I kind of am, but they want to start kind of building mm-hmm. their college resume, so to speak. What would you recommend for those people in that situation?
I would recommend to start as soon as you can. I think this is a really long process for me. Even if you don't know that you want to go to college, but to give yourself the option, I would say be really, really involved. Be really involved. Be on top of your grades. Try to challenge yourself academically, by taking AP classes or dual credit, or by just taking the harder math in middle school. I think that's really big, because I think if you challenge yourself, like, yeah, it'll be hard, but you kind of get used to that, and then, you know, by the time you're senior, you can take all these APs and stuff. But in terms of trying to figure out your fit, or if you even want to go to college, I would say kind of reflect a lot on your story. I think I did that a lot, like, especially after my freshman year, after really having a really hard year. I kind of reflected on my story and who I wanted to be. And I think if you do that, I don't know, I think you just have a different perspective on your life, and you kind of are able to figure out, like, what is it that I want to do with what I have. Yeah.
Okay, and then you're both really involved, or you were involved, and you're probably going to continue to be involved when you're in New York. But you were also in the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, MIAC.
Yes.
So tell us, what position or role did you play there, and what did you do for it, I guess?
Yeah. So this year, I want to say last year, but I was the vice chair for MIAC, and I was actually in MIAC since my freshman year. I started off like super shy when I first started. We had a pretty big council, kind of like how we have now. So I was really shy and intimidated, but I went to the meetings with a friend, so that helped a lot. And then sophomore year, COVID hit, and we lost a lot of our seniors, so the council went really, really small, like really small. But I was still involved. I wouldn't say as much COVID year, because we couldn't do as much. And then junior year, at the end of sophomore year, we did like the elections for the next year, and I remember I was like, I'm just gonna run for treasurer, like I'm just gonna do it, you know, because I was like, I need to put myself out there. And so I did it, and I think that helped me a lot my junior year, you know, because I was able to grow, and I was able to learn how to work with the committee, how to work with other people. I think I had also gone to DC that year as well, and so that was like really fun, and it was like me getting way out of my comfort zone. And then the year after that, so like my senior year, I ran for vice chair and I got it, and that was really fun because we had a really big council this year, so it was really fun to be like on an exec committee for a big council, and to do a lot more stuff this year than we had in the past. But I think it kind of started all like going to that first meeting, you know, even though like you might be really shy going to that first meeting, and even if it's like with a friend, just going and showing up.
To show up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a couple things that, as you guys were kind of speaking and talking, I think there's a few things that come to mind, and I want to ask you. Like, the first thing I want to ask is, you were both in school when COVID hit, and I feel like some people, you know, yes, it was challenging, but I think it kind of stops some people, or gets people stuck somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you deal with that? And if you felt like that, how did you keep yourself going and motivated?
Okay, I think I could start it off. So I remember when COVID hit, at first, like, everything like shut down, like you couldn't do anything, and I think to an extent sometimes, like, yeah, like I remember like those first 2 weeks, like nothing was happening. And sometimes that's kind of like how things are. Sometimes things like just get put on a standstill. But I think it's important to recognize, like, don't worry, like stuff like this happens. Like there's times where you're gonna like fall back, but just be patient, and then eventually like it'll come back. And don't feel like you're the only one that's it, because I feel like everyone had to take a pause. But I think just remaining confident, being like, yeah, it's okay. Like let me keep going. And I think even when it is hard, so like I know with COVID, there's like not a lot of like opportunities, like you can't go to like meetings and stuff like that, but still like trying to take advantage of what you can. So like going out, like if there's like an online conference you can maybe go to, try that, or you could pick up like and develop your own skills. So like I know some people like learn an instrument, or they got like really invested into like a new type of hobby. So like I know like some people like they got like really strong as like writers. I know some people like spent a lot of time writing and reflecting, and I think that really allowed them. So just always trying to find a light in the darkness, I'd say. But now looking at the aftermath, let's say that didn't really work out, and like you might feel like you're in like the rubble, like you feel like you're at ground zero, like you might even feel even more behind. I think kind of like what I said before, still being like consistent and patient. So even when you're at rock bottom, it sounds kind of tacky, but I always like use this thing like, you know, when you're like at the very bottom, the only thing you can do is go up.
Mm-hmm.
So taking the opportunities that like are gonna be presented even if it's like not coming to you directly, there's always something you can try to do. So I know like after COVID, some clubs might be trying to like restart. So like I know with Mayak, so being like trying to like put yourself out there, like going out, talking with people, maybe looking stuff up, you'll be like, oh, like there's Mayak I can maybe go to, and kind of like what you said, just going to that first meeting, kind of like starts to snowball and you get a bunch more connections. So I think no matter where you are, if you're doing very well, you're at the top, or if you might feel like you're at ground zero, just always taking anything you can, but then also going out and like really putting yourself out there, I think will really help you and set you up for success.
I think I agree with a lot with what Nick said. Let's say you used to do a lot of stuff before COVID and you kind of dropped it because of COVID. I'd say like starting over is okay and like doing the little baby steps. For me, honestly, it was kind of hard to find motivation like academically during COVID. Like I do remember sleeping during some classes because it was just really hard. Like I don't know, there's just something about it. It was like this feeling that was like I don't want to do anything. So I know something that I did was I tried to do baby steps. So I'm a big painter, so that helped me a lot. I did that a lot during COVID, and I used to be a really big reader, and then COVID hit, and I was like, I don't want to read. So what I kind of started doing was like I'd read like little by little. So I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna do a chapter like tonight, and then the next chapter tomorrow. I have to hold myself accountable and like read another chapter the next day. So kind of like doing baby steps, I think helps you get back into the swing of things. But if you became really antisocial because of COVID, because I know that was like really common, kind of like Nick said, just putting yourself out there. Like you don't have to do anything crazy big. Like you can literally, maybe go to a meeting and you don't talk, but you're there. Yeah.
I think one last thing I want to ask you guys is, what are you most excited about for your future, and what do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing you in particular, whether it be here in Caldwell or wherever you might kind of see yourself ending, I guess?
So I'm really excited for the future. So I know I still have 2 more years at Caldwell. So really making the most of those. I feel like I really set myself up. So like I know kind of what I like, what I can do, where I can grow. So really focusing on like what I need to do. So let's keep growing. Let's keep having these experiences. So just taking advantage of all that. I know sometimes it could be hard, but just being consistent and like you said, holding yourself accountable. But still, I think something I really like learned early on, like I said before, is like loving what I do. So I feel like it's really hard to get bored of it because it's like something I really like to do. Like I'd want to go out and go to the mic meeting. Like I'm excited for that. Or like going out and building another robot for robotics. So I think when you find something that you really love, it's hard to like let it go and get like kind of like bored of it or like burned out. So I think that's another thing. Like as I continue on, I think burnout is very real, but I think being able to like find time to rest and take a break sometimes, even if it's just like for a moment or it might be like for a day, a week, I think that's okay, and I think that's necessary for like success. Like you can't just be going 100% all the way in, like 100 miles per hour all the time. Right. So knowing when to like take a break, but then also finding a balance between taking a break, but then also working hard and being really like accountable and like having to like push through it. So yeah, I'd say.
Okay.
Did I hit that all right?
Yeah, sure.
No, I think to add to Nick, like that's really hard to balance. It's like, oh, you want to be involved, but you also want to be like not pushing, overdoing it. Because I know we talk a lot about getting involved, but I think like you have to know it's okay to say no to things. It's okay to be like, hey, sorry, I can't do this. Like, I don't have enough space on my plate. I wasn't super good at that my junior year, so I think I was kind of close to like burnout. And then this year I was like, you have to kind of know yourself and know your limits and know what it is that you can and can't manage. For my future, I'm really excited. Like, I'm really excited to go to campus. Yeah, I think I set myself really good up in terms of having resources and support on campus. There's like this Casa Latina, which I'm really excited, and they have like Latinx students who live in that house, so I'm really excited. I want to live here there my sophomore year. And then there's like this Latin dance group I want to join. Yeah, I'm really excited because, yeah, that just sounds really fun. But I think for sure there's a lot of challenges that are gonna come. I mean, for one, I'm going really far out of state, so that's gonna be a challenge, like in and of itself. It's gonna be completely different. It's like opposite of Caldwell. So that'll be a challenge, but I'm also really excited for that, to explore somewhere new. But then even just like my identity on campus is gonna be a challenge. You know, being first generation low income Latina on a campus that is, you know, predominantly white. A lot of, you know, families from higher class that I might feel out of place. I think that's gonna be big. The imposter syndrome, like we talked about, I think that kind of follows you, like where you go. But I think I feel ready. Like I know I made sure that there's resources on campus to help me out, because how I said at Caldwell, I knew I needed that, and Trio helped me a lot in knowing what kind of resources I need. So even though there's that challenge, I think I'm really excited. I'm really excited to grow, like within the next 4 years, and to just like to the point where I know how to ride the metro, and like which way to go. You know, yeah, I'm really excited. But then I'm also super excited to take what I learned and like come back and help, because like I love Caldwell. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for spending your time with us today. A lot of what I've heard today is, you know, try new things, you know, because how else are you going to know what you like, or start, you know, love what you do, but how are you going to know unless you just try? And, you know, bring a friend, even if that means that, you know, if you don't feel comfortable right away, and then pace yourself.
Yes.
And one comment I'll just make is, as an older generation looking out, it's hard sometimes to find people that are hungry for like things. So the thing I really appreciate is the fact that you guys are really hungry for, you know, just something better, something more, and just helping the community, and I think that's really awesome. So I know the mayor loves you guys, and I love you guys too. But thanks for being here, and all the best to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.